Welcome, everybody, to A Balanced Life with Dr. Jacquie here on Black Star Network. And we are excited today to talk about all things what's next in your life. I know you are more than a 9 to 5. So this month in our empowerment series, we're going to be talking to some leaders, some subject matter experts, some brand owners who can really guide you toward how do you get to where you want to go next. Not everything is going to be about you and right now. Sometimes you have to plan it out. You have to figure out where you're going. And today we're going to be joined by brand matter expert Kanika McIntyre, who is the owner, creator, designer, and founder of Melanated Princess. And of course, we're also joined by Dr. Tierini, who is our level up coach, who teaches us about all things we need to know about life, leadership, and relationships. Welcome in, ladies.
Hey, Dr. J.
Hey. Oh my God. I'm so excited to see you all. When I was thinking about how are we going to move people forward in this season of life, and what does it look like for them to take that pink slip, to take that notice, to decide, I don't want to do this anymore. There is something about women in particular, especially Black women, who are empowered by their gifts and their talents to do those things that really set them apart from other people. I want to start with Dr. Tierini. And, you know, being our level up coach, Dr. Tierini, you talk to a lot of people and everybody has a reason or an excuse or waiting for permission for somebody to say, just go. Talk to us about what does it look like to find an access point and just move on?
Yeah, that's really good. And I think you're right. That does kind of hinder us a lot because we're constantly waiting for permission. You know, we're waiting for permission from our significant others, from our jobs, from sometimes our past, you know, because of what happened in our past or what worked in our past. We're waiting for the permission from our past to say, oh, you can do something different now. When really we have to give ourselves permission. We have to tell ourselves, you know, hey, it's okay to do something different, to step into a new world, a new lane, to try something, you know, different. And if we're constantly waiting for that permission, then we're going to stay right where we are. You know, I think a lot of times, too, it's that fear that gets in our way. So we may label it as being wise or cautious, or it's just not the right time. And when really it's just that we're scared, you know, it is difficult to do something that we've never done before, but it is necessary if we are to move forward. You know, I tell on myself. And so this year, coming into this new year, I was like, okay, God, I don't have a word for this year. You haven't given me a word, you know, for this year. And he was like, okay, Shug, say less. Your word is forget. And I'm like, forget? Lord, what do you mean forget? You know, and basically he was downloading in me that I need to forget what he has done before, what he's told me before, the things that came before, because what he's doing is a new thing. So sometimes when we are holding on to even the good things, those past blessings, the nostalgia, when we're holding on to those things too tight, it can keep us from moving forward. So for some of us, we need to forget so that we can move forward.
I respect and appreciate that word, because oftentimes it is that word that people don't want to practice because it is definitely easier said than done. And, you know, it comes with the mindset of being able to figure out not only what you're forgetting, but the mindset that's just needed to get life forward. I want to ask Kanika this question, and y'all, I'm telling you, we're going to do a good one-on-one with her, but I'd love to get her insights and thoughts about how mindset plays a role in being able to move forward, because a lot of balance or about balance is a battle for the mind, the decisions you have to make, the people that you talk to. Kanika, share with us what type of mindset is needed for people to just forge forward even in the midst of whatever they're going through in life.
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for having me on. This is definitely an honor and I appreciate it. For me, it was more so a mindset of being in alignment. I have accomplished quite a bit, and it wasn't about me leaving a 9 to 5, but it's more so about me being in alignment and tapping into something that was truly purpose driven that I felt like I hadn't before. And so that mindset was that I'm moving in the right direction, and that I'm not going to question what I feel like God has given me to do and move forward in that. And so it's all about making a decision and wanting to be aligned with what your purpose and destiny is. And that was more so for me.
Okay, so I'm going to have a follow up with that, because when you talk about alignment, people's brains go haywire. I want to get over here and do this because it aligns with that. I want to do this over here because these people are doing that. Oh, everybody on social media is doing this and that and the other. What is or what was or has been your access point for alignment? And then Dr. T, I'm going to ask you the same question. What was your access point for alignment that you said, this is my lane in this season to thrive in?
Well, as a person of faith, it was really me taking a moment to really be prayerful about what it is that I wanted. I felt that I was lacking something, and I hadn't tapped into any of my creative side, I felt, in years. I do IT, executive leadership, AI, all those great things. But to me, there was a level of creativity that was missing. And then also the impact, even further impact that I wanted to have, since I mentored a lot of young people. And so to me, that was the access point. Once I decided, I was no longer okay with the mundane, okay with status quo, or even okay with what I've been skilled and talented to do. I wanted to go further. And so I use that as my access point to just step out on faith.
I like that. Dr. Tierini.
Mine was similar, but it wasn't me tapping into what I wanted. It was me not even tapping in. It was me being obedient to what God wanted for me. Mm-hmm. So, we got this song, old church, Jesus is on the main line. Tell him what you want. Well, I was telling him what I wanted, and he kept hanging up the phone because I was not listening to what he wanted for me. I was trying to tell him what I wanted, and he was trying to tell me what he wanted. He was trying to reveal to me all the things that he put on the inside of me. And to be honest, all those things were uncomfortable. All of those things were things that I'd never done before. All of those were things that I didn't even think were possible. So my access point was me getting out of my own way, was me stop thinking that I knew everything, me thinking that I knew exactly what was best for me, and me actually starting to listen to my Heavenly Father and start being obedient to what it was that he was telling me to do, no matter how crazy it might have sounded, no matter how uncomfortable it might have made me. I had to really start leaning heavily into him and what he was saying in order for me to truly see me. And then he gave me the desires of my heart, not necessarily the things that were already there that I put there or that the world put there, but the desires that he put there, because those were the things that he put there in the very beginning that he then introduced me to. And that was then the world that was opened up to me. So I had to stop telling him what I wanted and start listening in to what he wanted for me.
So I'm going to ask you a follow-up question, because this is our audience. We already know them. Mm-hmm. They are pushing back on every word that you said, because uncomfortable is my comfort zone, and uncomfortable makes me feel comfortable because I don't have to do anything I don't want to do. And we, when they write back to us and we're like answering some of their questions, we're like, well, how do you intend to really move your life forward if you never say, I want to grow past being uncomfortable? So share with our audience, first of all, what does uncomfortable look like? Because somebody already watching, squirming in their seat, like, why are they kicking on me? We're like, we just want to get the best out of you. So what does uncomfortable look like? But then when do you settle in your soul? I can do hard things. So let's go.
Yeah. So the first thing out the gate, Sugar, you don't have to be uncomfortable. You can stay right where you are. You have a choice. But I need you to understand that regardless of what you choose, it's going to be uncomfortable. You have to choose your uncomfortable. Either you choose the uncomfortable that keeps you stuck, or you choose the uncomfortable that keeps you better. Let's use exercise and weight loss as an example. You can choose to stay right where you at. Don't go to the gym. Don't eat healthy, and just stay comfortable right where you at. Well, guess what, Sugar? You're going to eventually be uncomfortable when you get ready to walk up that flight of stairs and you huffing and puffing along the way. That's mighty uncomfortable, ain't it? So you can choose to either get uncomfortable and go to that gym. That's going to make you better. That's going to make you stronger. That's going to make you healthier. That's going to help you lose that weight. Or you can choose the discomfort of huffing and puffing every time you get ready to get off the couch or go up some stairs, or having the discomfort of having to take all those pills and all those doctor's visits. Which uncomfortable are you going to choose? See, the mistake we make is thinking that at any point it's going to be comfortable. No, at every point it's going to be uncomfortable. You have to choose your uncomfortable. Do you choose the uncomfortable that's making you better? Or are you choosing the uncomfortable that's keeping you stuck? The one that makes you better is the one that you choose right out the gate. I chose to go ahead and get uncomfortable. When God snatched my job, sat me down and had a conversation with me, and then I had to say, okay, I can choose to stay comfortable where I'm at and continue in this lane, or I can go ahead and get uncomfortable now, learn something new, do a whole new media. All of this is brand new for me. It was not something that I went to school for, but now I am comfortable in this uncomfortable space of sitting right here talking to you. And it has made me better. It has made me wiser. I know stuff that I never would have thought. I know me to a different level than I never would have known before had I not gotten uncomfortable. So that's the thing that I need you to understand. It's really we're thinking that we can stay comfortable by staying where we are. But sugar, that comfort that you're in right now is going to eventually become the prison that you become stuck in. And that will then be the uncomfortable that you die in.
I like that example. And Kanika, I have to ask you, getting unstuck is often not easy for people because they waver between doing this and what other people are saying and what they think could or couldn't be right. What was the one thing that you allowed yourself to get unstuck about that has really helped pivot you to where you are today?
That's a good question. Getting unstuck, more so in regards to me not knowing. Dr. Tierini spoke about it clearly, that being in a space of change, that's uncomfortable. I don't know what's next, not having that level of control. I had to be okay with not being in control of what is next, that next step that I'm going to take. And especially me going into an industry I felt like I had absolutely no knowledge about. Retail was not something I knew anything about outside of what I did in high school, that one summer when I worked at a shop. And so it was a matter of me, again, mindset was very important, and letting go of trying to control everything around me and stepping out. And that helped me get unstuck. And I'm still learning, I'm still growing. And that's the wonderful thing about where I'm at now.
Thank you for sharing that information. When we come back after our break, we're going to dive into a conversation with Kanika and Melanated Princess and find out some of those principles and concepts that both she and Dr. Tierini talked about that will help move you on to what's next for you in your life. We'll be back in a moment after the break.
I'm Brittany Noble, Midwest-born, HBCU educated with experience in newsrooms across the country. Well, I've teamed up with Roland Martin to bring to you The Breakdown. This isn't just news. It's our stories, our voice, our community. Join me for The Breakdown, Monday through Friday at midday, only on the Black Star Network.
Welcome back, everyone. And as you can tell, this robust conversation is about how do you move your life forward? How do you begin to feel confident, empowered, knowing that you have the coping skills to really move into what's next for you? Joining me for this conversation is Kanika McIntyre. She is the creative director, founder, innovator of Melanated Princess. And I am so excited to dive in to this conversation with her. Welcome in, Kanika. How are you?
I'm excited to be here. This has been a wonderful conversation so far. So let's go.
Yeah, let's get into it. So when you think about who you are and what you're doing and all of those things that are associated, with Melanated Princess, you have, and you talk to us about this mindset that you possess, that you're like, I've got the coping skills. I'm willing to learn new things. I don't know, were you willing to be tried? And these are some of the things when people are going into a new area of business that we often, the battle here in the mind, we often don't talk about, what it takes to get to the finished product. So share with us, if you will, what Melanated Princess is and what was your vision behind it?
So Melanated Princess, we are an empowerment apparel brand. Our 3 pillars is about celebrating identity, inspiring confidence, and empowering people, young and old. And it was really the brand initiated from me wanting to create a book about, young people that were in my life, and I wanted to illustrate. And so I took a course and learned how to illustrate. And from there, I just kind of did this deep dive. And what I started doing is, everyone wanted to kind of get on the wave. You see it on YouTube, IG, about, creating your instant clothing with, creative things. But the vision got so big, and the impact and the people that was involved became so big, that I knew that this wasn't just a fly-by-night hobby, that this was something bigger, had a greater impact, and also leads to our foundation, where we support young ladies from 6 to 29 in all areas, from scholarship, mentorship. And so this is just, it's become bigger than what I thought. I knew God knew it was something even greater when he gave it to me.
So what does feeling empowered mean to you? Because clearly you found how to be empowered, but then you create a clothing line, a foundation, working through your book and journals about other people being empowered. Why is empowerment important, and what does it mean to you?
So empowerment to me, it's alignment. It's when your eternal sense of worth matches how you show up externally. It's how you trust yourself. And Melanated Princess just is a literal and a symbolic representation of that for me. And we often do that by having our inspire each other with our clothing and our affirmations. And so with that being said, that's really just how we show up.
I like that. I want to ask Dr. Tierini to come in and join this conversation, because there are a couple of ways in which we as African-American women show up in the spaces that we have. And a part of that space, ladies, is we love India Arie, and we will say, I am not my hair, but it is probably one of the most diverse things about us. And we may have one hairdo in the morning and have another hairdo in the evening, because we like to rock style. Dr. Tierini, when we talk about the clothing that we wear, it is also a part of our personal brand. Why does clothing resonate so much with the African-American community and how we show up in spaces that we find ourselves in?
Yeah, this is a bit of a history lesson here, but it really goes back to our ancestry in terms of how America saw us and the stereotypes that were put on us. And so we really didn't have a lot of power to control a lot of the things that were being done to us, and Jim Crow and things like that. But what we could control is how we showed up, what we looked like when we got there. And so this is why, if you go through history, you'll see that Black men and women have put a lot of stock in our appearance, and for many, many years, that was a source of safety. As long as I looked the part, as long as I, walked in with the suit and the nice hat and the dress and the slip, and, then I wasn't perceived as a threat. Okay. And that hasn't left us, this. Even though we're in 2026, there's still a part of us that is hesitant to wear our natural curls, that if our hair is straight, then we're seen as a different, in a different light when we walk into that boardroom, but it is also, we've taken that, we've reclaimed that, and it is also our source of expression. It expresses who we are. It expresses our culture, the colors, the big earrings, the hair, the clothes, it is also our source of expressing our freedom to be. So that question is a really loaded question. And I just gave a very high level, that was super, super high level of kind of what that means, for us, but it's also our way of kind of reclaiming some of our power.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. It helps us to just, again, express ourselves, in a way. And so when you connect that with a brand, a lot of times before, and I've experienced this, before I open my mouth, people are already making an assessment about me or who they think I am just by the shoes that I have on, or the hairstyle, that I'm wearing. So that is the other half of the branding piece when it comes to what we wear, how we wear our hair, our makeup, our clothes, and things like that, because it also communicates to your audience before you even say one word.
Both of you ladies are talking about style and what style means. And Kanika, you said you start with the young age of young girl and then move to grown young adult, at 29. And I believe in having seen your brand and seeing people wear your brand, there is this sense of style and elevation. And it's contemporary yet modern. It's elevated urban and a little street chic. So when you talk about the style that we create and the confidence that it gives young women, where do you believe you fall on that line? Because you participated in Fashion Week, just a year ago as a new brand. That in itself is a sense of empowerment. So how is the style that you've created a buzz for others in our community to say, you know what, I can dress up and down and look good with all of it?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think Dr. Tierini said it wonderfully about showing up, and we represent ourselves culturally in everything that we do, from our clothes, hair, earrings. And with our clothes, we are very intentional. We often say we wear our affirmations. Every piece carries intentional language or symbolism because representation matters. Seeing yourself reflected beautifully and unapologetically shapes the confidence, and especially for the young people. And this has just created an opportunity for Melanated Princess has created an opportunity for young people to be in the forefront, to learn those skills, to be empowered in their own skin. And so, like we said, we wear our affirmations. So it's a constant reminder to ourselves, but also an outward reflection. And when we show up, so when you have something on that you really feel like you look good in, your whole presence, your whole aura is reflective of that as well. So that's what we aim to do, is to show people in our pieces what we see our young people being represented as within the clothing as well.
I want to take it one step further with you, Kanika, because in addition to the affirmations, there's also this presence of these beautiful Black women of all stages on your clothing. And in the climate in which we found ourselves these last several years, and for sure going forward, are you teaching and training young women to just own their voice, to have power in it? And, I'm going to just take us all the way back. Say it loud, I'm Black and I'm proud. And, you are up front and center about being melanated. And how are you educating our girls to feel confident, but also have a little clap back when people want to bring smoke about being Black and beautiful?
Yeah. So one of our collection is the Radiant Collection. To your point, it has the different representations of all the different princesses in different scenarios. And what it says is that it doesn't matter who and what we look like, whether we're spunky, whether we're soft-spoken, whether that is who we are, and we are royal and beautiful in that. And so that piece, those particular pieces, is there to help project that the way we want ourselves to feel, projected out to the world. And also just to be unapologetic. I do not care at this juncture, based on what we're currently living in this administration, about saying who we are, and staying 10 tones down in that. And Melanated Princess is here for a reason, and we're going to stay here, and we're going to make sure that our young people have something that they can hold on to and be proud of when they walk out the door, as well as giving them the opportunity to be forefront and speak about whatever it is that they want to do. Our foundation doesn't restrict young people to particular activities or things of that nature, things that we may see them wanting to narrowly focus. No, whatever it is you want to do, Melanated Princess, we're going to help support you, because we are an array of people, and those voices need to be echoed and presented.
Absolutely. When we come back, y'all, after the break, I want to dive into this conversation. Did you hear her? 10 toes down. There's some things in who we are as women, training and preparing our young girls, that we need to learn and discover what it means to be solid and unapologetic in who we are as Black women at all ages. We'll be back in a moment after the break.
They said the quiet part out loud. Black votes are a threat, so they erased them. After the Supreme Court gutted the Voting Rights Act in 2013, Republican legislatures moved fast. New voter ID laws, polling place shutdowns, purges of black voters from the rolls. Trump's Justice Department didn't stop it, they joined in. In 2018, his DOJ backed Ohio's voter purge system, a scheme that disproportionately erased black voters. Their goal, erase black votes and political power. Yeah, that happened. These are the kinds of stories that we cover every day on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Subscribe on YouTube and download the Black Star Network app. Support fact-based independent journalism that centers African Americans and the issues that matter to our community.
Welcome back, y'all. As you can tell, let's get it spicy. And Dr. Tierini is one of those people who's always said, bring her the smoke. So Kanika and Dr. Tierini, let's get at it. So when we talk about being Black women and preparing and training our young girls, whether it's through our hair, our nails, our piercings, whatever, we're going to be us. But it's hard for people, ladies, to feel like they can be themselves unapologetically, because we still code switch in our language, in our attire, in how we walk, where we go and have our coffee. Dr. Tierini, talk to us a little bit about code switching in 2026 and where we're taking it. Let's do it.
Oh, you will come over here to me with that one. Yeah, Kanika, feel free to jump in anytime. Do we code switch? Yes, we do. Again, it kind of goes back to that safety thing, but in a way, code switching has kind of almost become a pride thing, because it's like, I don't want you to know everything. I don't want you to know exactly what I'm saying. You see these trends now on social media where one of us will come on and be like, okay, y'all, look, because so. And everybody that looks like us understands exactly what the person is saying, you know. And so some of it now is also just kind of to protect us, to protect what is uniquely us. So I'm not always going to show up as my full self, because you don't deserve my full self. You don't deserve to hear all the, you know. And so some of that code switching is just boundaries. You know, not like we talked about access points before, you know, not everyone deserves the full you. Not everyone can handle the full you, you know, so it's not that you're saying something different in this room versus that room. You just may not put that extra expletive on it in one room versus the other room, you know, but it ultimately is a safety precaution. Now, where it's going to go, how it's going to look, I do not have a crystal ball. I don't know, but it is definitely one of the things that for us, we do it, and we do it a little differently now than what we used to, you know, kind of back then. And depending on the arena that you're in, depending on, you know, what environment you might be in, what industry you're in, it's going to look a little different. But regardless of how you do it, if you do it, why you do it, when you do it, the important thing is that you always stay true to you. Okay, because code switching is really about making keeping ourselves safe in the face of them. But while we're doing that, we have to make sure that we're staying true to us. So that's why I don't down. Some people will say like, oh, you shouldn't code switch. To each his own. zone. Okay. Because we don't know the environments or the things that each of us are having to stand up in front of. But the important thing is that don't ever lose you, regardless of what you're doing or how you're doing it. Don't lose sight of you.
I appreciate that. Kanika, yeah, the woman with the brand who's empowering Black women and girls, 10 toes down, you said, in being unapologetic. Where does that come from? Is that an innate skill set? Is it something we have to teach? Yeah, what does that look like going forward? There are a lot of us.
I think it's innately in all of us. It's whether or not we tap into it. I think I've had enough life experiences. And I think some of that is also with maturity and being okay with the decisions you make and holding yourself accountable to those things and not be apologetic. Again, not being apologetic for that. I agree with Dr. Tierini when it comes to code switching. I feel like, if anything, it's more so for safety reasons, to ensure the way we move. We still have to protect ourselves, be mindful of those things, but be true to ourselves. And so for me, part of that is, if you don't know anything else about me, you know that what I represent based on the clothing, how I show up, and that never changes. The words may be softer. It may be a little, more politically correct, but authentically, I'm still who I am.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I want to applaud you, Kanika, because you launched your brand, and I have to use this E word, during a time where there was an erasure of us. They were pulling our brands out of these various marketplaces. And then here you come like, no. Why is protecting us as a people and representation and not being erased from the cultural narrative important in this time?
Oh, it's even more so important. That was a big question that I was asked when I did a local NAACP Shark Tank event. They were like, why, after all these other brands and things that are happening, why would you need to be here? And I was like, there is a need. There is a need. There's going to be a constant need for us to be represented, for us to have something in a line in clothing, food, anything that is developed by us for us that will make an impact for our community. And I believe that we as a community need to actually, I think we need to do a better job in supporting one another as we go through this time, and ensure that regardless of their attempt to erase us, their attempt to try to change the narrative of who we are and what has happened, that we don't lose sight of that, and that we support one another to ensure that story remains. Because in Africa, there was the spoken word and how history was passed on. Well, you can't erase imagery. You can't erase those things if it exists.
Existence, resilience, all of those are extremely important. And Dr. Tierini, when we think about, that was probably not a Freudian slip. So resistance and resilience go hand in hand. They are equal on the table, one boxing glove and the other boxing glove. And sometimes they have to work in tandem with resistance and resilience. How are we in this movement of being empowered through this season in life, helping people stand up and be seen, even when, as Kanika was talking, the lyrics to this song came to mind. We ain't going nowhere. Mm-hmm. So talk to us about resistance and resilience and how those two need to work in tandem smartly for the continued curation of culture.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with Kanika. It is necessary. And not just in, let me say this, not just in clothing and fashion and music, but even in just scientific research, making sure that we are represented in the research studies and things that are done, because a lot of these medications and a lot of these things have not been tested on our Black bodies. So we don't know how they are helping us, or even just as women, like we are often not represented in a lot of the studies and the research and the things that are done that are created to even help to heal us. So making sure that we are represented even here 2026 is still very, very, very important. Now, when we talk about, the resistance and the resilience, I think this is where we have to make sure that we are being smart, we are being wise, but we're also being courageous. This is not the time for fear to come in and for us to just fall back into the status quo of what's comfortable. Any change is going to, again, come on the heels of discomfort. When we think about the biggest change that happened for the African American community, it was during the civil rights movement. And so when we think about some of the things that the discomfort that they had to endure in order to facilitate that change, it may be a little different now, but the discomfort is still there. We still have to stand up. We still have to be courageous, and we still have to be smart as we are, making these moves and navigating this new world. So we can't just resist and not be resilient. We can't be resilient without there being some, knowing that we have to resist as well, but we can't do either of it if we are, don't have that courage and we're not exercising wisdom. And again, this is where that faith kind of comes in too, and saying, okay, God, are we to go and tell Pharaoh, no, we will not go? How does that all blend together? And so because it all does blend together, we can't have one without the other. We can't have any of it if we are not being courageous.
For sure. Kanika, those are my other two words that I'm going to bring to you is like, there is a phrase that you have to stand in the courage of your conviction. Mm-hmm. And sometimes when I put on clothes or when I look at buying clothes, I am literally buying them for the purpose of making a statement when I'm going to wear them wherever I'm going to wear them, because I want that message to get out. In your messaging, because you talked about these affirmations, what kind of affirmations do people wear, and what will they see when they're in your brand?
Yes. So one of our tagline is embrace your reign, beautifully melanated. Mm-hmm. It's to acknowledge the royalty of who we are, the endurance, the beauty, the all the things that make us wonderful, and for us to show up that way and to embrace it and walk in it. So that is what you'll see on a lot of my pieces, as well as on our new collection, Crowned in Color, which is our t-shirt line, which is beautiful imagery and a graffiti type style, but there's affirmations of she reign and I am a masterpiece. And there's so many other things that we have, but it is just really just showing like in that essence of who we are. We are a masterpiece. We are royal. We're just beautiful, and we should just stand in that. And so when you get those pieces, hopefully you feel that way when you're wearing it.
I think that's beautiful because, okay, I'm going to do it. Y'all know I never do this on the show. This entire movement of Black power, white power. Do people not understand? I'm coming to Kanika, then Dr. Tierini, and I know I'm going to go into a break. So yes, I'm going over and I'll make up for it. But I have to ask this question, why it is top of mind. You know what? Let's go to break. Folks, when we come back after the break, I am going to thoroughly walk off this thought in this last block, because it's important for us to understand why we represent us the way we represent us. We'll be back in a moment after the break.
I'm Brittany Noble, Midwest-born, HBCU educated with experience in newsrooms across the country. Well, I've teamed up with Roland Martin to bring to you The Breakdown. This isn't just news. It's our stories, our voice, our community. Join me for The Breakdown, Monday through Friday at midday, only on the Black Star Network.
Welcome back, everybody. And as I was saying, this whole conversation that we are having, in the world today, as we bring in our guests about why do Black people need to say who they are? And why do they wear this, that, and the other on their clothes? And, we don't have all these other movements. Well, honestly, people, if people weren't saying we weren't such a thing, and we know that we are fabulous and ready for the world and amazing, we wouldn't have to wear empowerment messages on our clothes. So Kanika and Dr. Tierini, let's talk about that for a moment, because I am sickened and laughing at the same time by this. Well, what if we wore this on our shirt and we see y'all every day on everything? It never dawns on most white designers to put people of color that represent this country or the world on their items. So, Dr. Tierini, being empowered is about representation, but it's also about being seen. Because you don't have to be loud to be empowered. Talk to us about what it means to be seen, because we say that a lot. Like, I don't feel seen. What does that mean in the marketplace, at the bank, in the grocery store, getting your car washed, buying clothes without being stalked, buying an attendant, like, oh, we just give the best customer service? No. Talk to us, Dr. T.
So the first challenge I always lay to my clients, because we can talk about this on a number of elements. But the first thing I always say to my clients is, do you see you? Or we worry about, are we seen by them? Do you see you? And so when we don't see ourselves, when we don't know who we are in our core, okay, that then makes it hard for us to then communicate our identity and our individuality in a way that, as you said, it doesn't have to be loud. It can be just the quiet. I never have to walk around saying, I'm a Black woman. Clearly, you can look at me and see that, but when you don't know that, when I am not seeing me, then I will walk around loudly proclaiming, I'm a Black woman. Duh. I see me, and so it's really important that we make sure that we see us first, because then that will help guide however we choose to express who we are to them. Now, them not seeing us, I mean, that we can go down that rabbit hole. I don't know. Maybe you want to go down that rabbit hole, Jacquie. Maybe that's what this question was for. But it really comes back to, do you see you? Okay, because a lot of times we're not seeing ourselves clearly. We're not seeing our greatness clearly. We are downplaying ourselves to ourselves. We're not thinking highly enough of ourselves. We have to get our confidence up. We have to get, out of this insecurity that in some aspects has been pressed upon us, and it has told us to shrink, and it has told us to be quiet, and it has told us, so you, sugar, have to see you first. And then from you seeing you, how then do you demonstrate that to the world? Is it through your clothes? Is it through your creativity? Is it through your hair, through your nails, through what you cook in your kitchen? How you communicate that out comes from how you embody that within first.
I love that. Kanika McIntyre, what you got, girl?
What it means to be seen. To me, I mean, being seen, of course, I agree with Dr. Tierini. I mean, it's being recognized in your full humanity. It's not a stereotype. It's not trends. It's not an afterthought. So being seen is when your culture and your identity and your lived experience is reflected back and is respected with dignity. And there's on so many unfortunate reasons why brands like Melanated Princess is so important, is because we haven't consistently received that respect and dignity. And it's the difference between simply existing in a space and belonging in it. And so Melanated Princess, we really want to ensure that as far as representation within our clothing is that you feel that you're not invisible, that you're not marginal, and that you're deserved to be in a space, and have beauty and confidence. And so that's why representation isn't cosmetic or just it's just foundational.
I I appreciate that. So, Kanika, follow-up question related to that, because you've built this brand, it's your baby. How are you defining success? Because we've talked about barriers and boundaries, breakthroughs, but there got to be some benchmarks. Like you have your own benchmarks for what success as an empowered Black woman looks like. That's probably different, from white people, Latino people, our Asian brothers and sisters. How are you as a woman defining success with what you've created for your brand?
I think it's for most businesses. I think there's the financial component to it. There's that level, but more importantly for me is the impact that we're making. My ability to touch as many people as possible. My intent, and I've always had this conversation with certain individuals, is like, I am not a boutique brand. I am a national and global brand. And that is my intent, because we want this to be outreaching. We want the representation to go broad and beyond because of what we are. And to me, once that happens, that is, to me, the ultimate level of success for me.
Okay. So can we add international brand to the work that you do? Because little birdie told me that you've been impactful with some of the relief efforts that are happening in Jamaica to allow those young girls and women to feel empowered after the hurricane. What has been that impact and the difference that you're making abroad?
Oh, that was beautiful. I just enjoyed having that opportunity. And I thank JNA Associates for that opportunity of connecting us with Serve and Inspire. We were able to provide some melanated clothing as well as hygiene products and books and candy and just basic need things that they needed after the hurricane. And we've made such a wonderful connection. And just to see the young girls, they held up the shirts and sent pictures. And so it's not for me to kind of, broadcast that, that's what we did. But it's to me, that's the impact, is if there's a need, I want to be able to fill it.
I like that. Dr. Tierini, impact. And see, y'all got me sighing today, y'all, because this is supposed to be light and fun and easy, and it is. And I often wonder, do people have an inability to marry impact and expectation because they allow other people's idea of what impact and expectation looks like? So they thwart their own ability to succeed. Talk to us, Dr. Tierini, about how do we level up in our empowerment game?
Yeah. No, this is good. This is good. This is why I've been harping on you knowing who you are, because when you know who you are, Kanika could just talk just as clear and just as eloquently about her impact and because she knows who she is, who she is, and she know what she has been called to do. So her impact does not look like Dr. Jackie's impact, does not look like Beyonce's impact, because our impact is unique to us and it's based on our God-given gifts, talents, purpose, callings. So when you don't know who you are, then you're going to be searching all out here for what should I do? What is the impact I'm supposed to make? Ooh, they're impactful. I'm going to do what they're doing. And then we get discouraged when we're not as impactful as them, when really that's their impact based on who they are and their unique calling. So when we start to define impact and, all of those things, we have to come back with, sugar, do you see you? Do you know who you are? Do you know the person that God designed? Not the one that your mama and daddy said, not the one that your teacher said, not the one that white America tries to tell you that you ain't. Do you know who you are? Because that is where your impact is coming from. That is why God sat on high and said, there needs to be a Kanika in the world. There needs to be a Barbara. There needs to be a Sally. There needs to be a John. That's why God let you be here. But if you're not connected with that person, that's down on the inside, then you're just going to be doing all the things, doing a whole lot and just wearing yourself out and not really having an impact. Now, you might make a lot of money. A lot of people might know your name, but is that really the impact that you were put here to have? If that is all that your impact is, it's just about stuff. It's just about the house and the car and the money and the ring and the husband and the key. Then sugar, that's a mighty cheap impact. Yeah, I did. I said it. Your impact should be lasting. It should ring in this earth long after God has called you home. That is your impact. What Kanika is talking about, that's going to outlast her. It will outlive her. That's your impact. And the only way you can have that level of impact is if you know who you are and whose you are. So that's the work that you got to do. And that's what I'm here for. So y'all know I give a free session. If y'all want to start talking about your impact, start talking about who you are, come talk to me, sugar. I got you. Let's level up.
I love it because everybody is unique and needs to discover how to tap into who they are. So, Kanika, we would normally end our show with telling our audience one thing that they can do to move forward for putting their vision on the table and making it live. So, Kanika, then Dr. Tierini, what's the one thing that you'd like to tell our audience that they can do or can look into to begin to take it to the next level?
The first thing is just be bold and step out. Just be bold and step out, and God to do the rest.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Dr. T.
Get connected with who you are. You need to understand who you are, whose you are. You need to see you before you can see it, whatever your it might be, whatever that thing is, whatever that impact is. You need to see you before you can see it. And come talk to me if you don't know where to begin.
I believe that. And I guess that would be my one thing. Talk to other people who have done something and are doing something so that you know you have the right people in your space to be able to do your next thing. When we come back after the break, I'll give my reflection.
They said the quiet part out loud. Black votes are a threat, so they erased them. After the Supreme Court gutted the Voting Rights Act in 2013, Republican legislatures moved fast. New voter ID laws, polling place shutdowns, purges of black voters from the rolls. Trump's Justice Department didn't stop it, they joined in. In 2018, his DOJ backed Ohio's voter purge system, a scheme that disproportionately erased black voters. Their goal, erase black votes and political power. Yeah, that happened. These are the kinds of stories that we cover every day on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Subscribe on YouTube and download the Black Star Network app. Support fact-based independent journalism that centers African Americans and the issues that matter to our community.
Welcome back, everybody. And I hope that you've enjoyed today's show and the addition that we've given you here on, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jacquie. Everything is not about it being hard. Some things are just easy. It's about walking into who you are, discovering your purpose, leveling up to the place that you believe you are meant to be, and then allowing yourself, as Kanika said, to dream big. Allow yourself to be bold, to be, experimenting with those things that are going to help you feel empowered about the life that you've been given to live. I hope that something we've said today allowed you to just move your life one step closer to feeling amazing. Thank y'all for watching. Bye now.